Hey there, Coach Patrick here from Endurance Nation, back to talk about race execution. And today I'm going to talk specifically about the swim. I've got 3 things that you need to think about when you're getting back into racing the swim, regardless of your ability as a triathlete, to make sure that you have an optimal race. And I wore blue today, so I got that water vibe going on. I got some water over here in the corner. We're ready to go. All right, let's do this. So what's the pain that you experience when you're swimming as a triathlete? I mean, physical pain, but what are the issues that you have as a swim, right? You swim times too long. You've done an event and you figured your time out in the pool and you got in the water and you're like, where am I losing time? I'm losing tons of time. And there's a couple key places that you lose time. Since our goal is to be faster, not just in the course of the swim, but overall, my resources for you today actually take that into account, because there's no such thing as a good swim or a good bike without a good run. And a great race is a combination of all 3 disciplines. And regardless of your ability level as a swimmer, there's some key things that we need to focus on to make sure that your swim works really well for you. Okay. All right. This is great. So number 1 with the swim, and the most important thing that I think about swimming when we think about moving to open water, is finding a way that you can get comfortable in motion. Okay. So if we're running, you can reset with a deep breath. Cycling, you can kind of sit up and stretch. Swimming, most people don't have that. They've got nothing. They're like, I have to keep swimming, otherwise I start sinking. There's this mentality that if I'm not going forward, I'm going down in the water and I'm running out of oxygen rapidly. And this is a real problem for me. So we need a way for you to get back into the groove so you can maintain your form. The longer you can maintain your good form, whatever that means for you, whether you're a 5 or a 7 or a 9 or 10, right? Whatever that form means for you, the better you're going to swim at the same level of effort. And our goal here is not to exert more, but to actually get more out of what you've got. And so you have to find a way for you to reset. Now, for some people, it's about extending under the water in front of them, really, really reaching and rotating on their side and just getting into the motion, letting the wetsuit do some of that work and rotation for you. That allows you to kind of slow down the breathing pattern and exhale a little more fully on that breath. Okay. For some people, they like to do the fingertip drag drill, right? Just across the top of the water. What that promotes is relaxation, loose fingers, loose hands, very nice and light going through the water. It also gives you like a nice high elbow motion, which is really important for you to get into that space. Okay. So we've got extending the hand underwater and we've got doing the fingertip drill for you as well. The last piece that I'll tell you as a great sort of relax and reset for you is to really focus on blowing bubbles. Okay. And why I say blow bubbles, because the exhalation process actually lets you get back your breathing back under control and allows you to reset and get your form in. When we start running out of air, when we're not exhaling enough underwater, we can't take in more air because we've got this buildup of carbon dioxide. We're not expelling it. And our brain is saying, I can't take in more oxygen because there's too much junk in here already. So we overrule that process by doing a really good exhalation. Okay. And don't be worried about like slow, fast, whatever. Just get as much of the air out as you can. I'm recommending sort of a slower pace one as you slow your stroke down and reset to get back into your form. So if you can use the drill, like doing maybe catch-up drill a little bit in the water, or that fingertip drag drill for nice high elbows, both of those are great. If not, resort to your breathing. That's going to allow you to get back to that form and pace that's actually going to let you sustain yourself. All right. Okay. Number 2, the number 2 pain you have. Why does it take you so long to do the swim in open water? Because you go all over the place. You're like an ant on a picnic table going over and checking everyone's napkins to see what's going on. We've all been there. We've been in this situation and it's hard. Every open water scenario is different, and the same open water setting can be dynamically different depending on the day and the competition. So how do you prepare? Well, we need fundamentals, and the fundamentals for open water are 2 things to make sure that you're staying on track. Number 1 is observation. Before you even get in, just standing on the shore, taking a look at the body of water, right? See if there's motion in the water, understand the wind, understand the environment that you're in. Take a look at the setting around you, right? What do you have to sight off of? Is it trees? Are there telephone lines, power wires? Is there a mountain in the distance, wherever you may be? Really getting a sense for what's going on. And even better, if someone is already out there swimming, you can take a look at that and understand, right? Most of the time, we're nervous about the swim and we're very inwardly focused on ourselves. Am I doing everything? Do I have everything ready? Am I super safe or whatever? And we just jump in the water. We're not really looking where we're going. Take a moment, take a breath, reset yourself. It's a great process, just like we were talking about technique, to reset yourself before you enter the water. Get your bearings, right? Take a good look, get the lay of the land before you do anything. Super, super important. And that goes for race morning as well as anytime you enter the open water. Okay. And the second thing for you is then working on your sighting. Sighting gets a little tricky for people. Now, the key part here is there's really sort of 2 elements to it. The first is knowing what you want to sight off of, and you have to say it. right? So you have to say, I'm going to sight off of that mountain, or I'm going to sight off the third tree from the left. It sounds ridiculous, but if you don't say it, you're not committed to it. And if you're not committed to it, when you're in the water swimming around, you'll be like, the second tree, the third tree is just as good. And then you can't really remember as you're going under stress in the water, hard to see, other stuff going on around you. Did you say you were going to sight off the second tree or the third tree? Which one really matters? And which one was the first tree that you wanted? Wait, did I just say the first tree off the second tree or the third tree? Now I don't know who's on first and I'm lost, right? And I did it to myself. So commit to what you're sighting off of. I'm going to sight off of that tree on the way out, and on the way back, maybe you've already practiced swim or turn around. You can say, I'm going to sight off of this house, so I understand what I'm doing when I come back, right? Because you've done the math on where you want to be. So really commit to that verbally. And the second piece is getting in the water and understanding how you can stay focused on those parameters for you in terms of the water. Make sure that you're staying on sight and sight line. And how do we do that, right? So people have to look when they're swimming. Now, the trick with looking when you're swimming is that you only need your eyes out of the water. You don't need your whole head out of the water to sight. So how do we do it? Here's the easiest way to do it. And you can actually practice it when you're swimming. The way that we do it is we incorporate your sighting with your breathing. So normally when you take a stroke here like this, I'm pulling through and I'm rolling my side, and I'm going to breathe on my left-hand side. Instead of just breathing to the side, as this hand goes out, I'm going to use this as a platform, and I'm just going to lift my head up a little bit and then turn to the side to breathe and go down. And so in terms of the water, let's do this with the camera right here, right? So my head comes up and I'm just looking like this, and then I turn to the side to breathe and I go back in the water. So I'm up, turn and go, right? So even maybe my nose comes out of the water, but I'm still blowing bubbles at this point in time, right? And getting ready, and then inhaling on the side when I turn to the side. So we're just focusing on hand goes out. This hand is keeping the momentum going. You know, the eyes come out of the water to look ahead and turn. And what that does, and what's so important about that, is you're orienting the direction you're headed. This is your rudder effectively with where you're looking right now. So you know, am I headed at that tree or that mountain or that house, or am I not, right? Because if you do any other version of sighting, coming back over or whatever, it's really hard to determine where it is. It's sort of like trying to catch a moving object that's going all over the place. So use this arm as your marker, do that sight, and then roll on your side, catch that breath. I recommend when you get good at it that you only sight every third or fourth cycle. If you're doing 3-count breathing, that's going to be every 9 or 12 strokes, which sounds crazy to some people. But the majority of triathletes sight too often. And every time you sight, you lift your head, even that little bit, your hips are going to drop. It's going to slow you down. It's going to make things worse for you. We don't want to be in that situation. We want to swim smoothly. So sight every 3 or 4 times so you get really better. Now, coach, here's a story. I love your ideas. It's great. I'll practice the breathing thing and I'll practice the sighting thing. I think I can get that. But this whole waiting every like 30 seconds to sight, I'll never get there. I'll do loop-de-loops before I get there. Here's the thing. As you start swimming, once you get through the initial start of the race, when it's a little crazy, and you start making progress, you're going to start to notice that as you're looking at that tree or that buoy or wherever you're going, you kind of always end up on the left. And you're like, I keep going left, or maybe you're going to the right today. You know, you never know. Like as an adult onset swimmer, the odds are that you're really not doing a great job of being consistent with your stroke. So what we do is we modify where we place our hands in the water when we swim, and you can just figure it out through trial and error in motion as you're going. Let's say you're pulling to the left. So every third cycle of breathing, you look and you're like, oh my God, I'm just going to the left every time. I can't get it right. Here's what you do. When you're doing a 3-count breathing on the non-breath third arm. So just say it right. I'm doing 1, 2, 3, and I'm breathing, and I'm 1, 2, 3, and I'm breathing like this. Every time I put that third arm in, normally I'd be looking at the sight. Instead, this case, when I put that arm in, when I go to breathe, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put this hand in just a little further out to the side. So instead of straight ahead, I'm actually going to put it over here. And by inserting my arm over here, every third stroke on my breathing stroke in a 3-breath cycle means 3 of my strokes out of a total of 9, 30%, is over just a little bit to the side. And what that means is, as much as I want to pull to the left, I'm just going to kind of come a little bit back to the right. So when I look up and sight again, I'm on track. You can do the same thing if you're pulling to the right. You just put your left hand in a little further out on this side as well. And all you have to do is figure out the placement and the frequency of that placement, and you'll be golden. Easy to practice in drill swims, and you'll just see all you have to do is just drop your arm out a little bit. If you want to turn in a nice lazy turn, just drop that arm out, swim, drop that arm out, swim, and you'll be like, I'm taking a right-hand turn. Who knew? Right? None of this like stopping, turning yourself, getting in the water again, starting again. That's like ridiculous and crushes your swim time. All right. Okay. So we talked a little bit about sighting there. You may need to go back, watch that part again, because it is actually pretty critical, learning how to really sight well, and then how to make sure that you're turning appropriately in the water without disrupting your stroke. So the third part about swim execution and race execution for open water swimming, and this is one that people don't really do well, particularly if you're new to swimming, or if you struggle with maintaining your form and you're just sort of, the form's not baked in. You're still working on it. You don't feel quite prepared. And that is swimming with other people. One of the biggest lessons I've learned racing, and predominantly in open water and open waters with currents, like swimming in Hawaii, is that if I'm not swimming with people, I'm not moving through the water fast. I may be swimming fast, but by myself, I am the lone fish pushing through the water. It's a lot of work to force through that water, especially a triathlete of my size. So do yourself a favor and get really comfortable at swimming near and around other people. Now, this could be on someone's feet. This could be on someone's hips. On race day, you're not going to have really a choice, because the dynamics will sort things out as they are. Your job is to make sure you're staying with the group, even if it means kind of going a little wide and you're like, but I really want to just go straight. Going straight on your own is so much more work than just going a little bit wide with the group. In a way, you kind of have to trust the group. Think of it this way. When you're driving along the highway and people in front of you start to slow down, you slow down. When the cars in front of you all start to go around, they kind of cross over in the other lane a little bit, etc. When you're getting to that spot on the road, you're not like, what are those people doing? I'm just going to dive to the right, take a shortcut. No, there's something there. Something's happening. You generally will go around them, most normal drivers, okay? And so the same thing is true for the swim. You're part of a school of fish. And the more you spend time inside the school, the less overall work you're doing. Now, this can really impact your stroke and your comfort. So breathing becomes key. Being able to breathe to both sides is a helpful exercise. So you can rotate and swim to a different side, breathe to a different side if you need to. But the number one thing that happens here that people need to understand is your finishes. It's really hard to get a good catch when there's people around you. Your arm lands on someone's back, your fingers tap someone's feet. It's hard to get that perfect catch that you want. So you're going to get a catch, but it's not your best catch. So what you really need to focus on then is holding those finishes, really pushing that hand back so we keep the tension on the water, keep your movement going forward. You'll get a couple of good strokes in there with a good catch as well. But in the meantime, really make sure you're holding those finishes, thumb touching the quad, pushing all the way back, especially in those crowded situations. When it opens up, you can get the catch back and get your rhythm back as in your own individual stroke in the context of that group. Great. But until you get there, just focus on those finishes. All right. So we talked about it. We talked about just getting relaxed and recentering ourselves and finding our form. We talked about swimming directionally appropriate with the focus on not only on our environment, but committing to a point and then figuring out how we want to adjust in a simple, easy way through placement of our hands. And last but not least, we talked about the speed that exists in a group. If you're going to school race day, you can take people to class. Hopefully, you're not going to be first in the class. Don't worry about it. You don't have to be first in the class. Most of the time, when you're first in the class in the swim, not necessarily first across the finish line. So we'll get you all set as we go. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. This has been Coach Patrick with another race execution episode. For more race execution tips, go over and check out our race execution resource, our free email course. I'll put it in the show notes below, and you can always find it by going to enduranceStation.us. Thanks, everyone. Have a great one.